Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, Quality Automation at Medical Device Leader Owen Mumford. It's great to have you all join us wherever you're joining from. So before we get started, just a couple of logistics that we want to cover. This webinar will be recorded and will be sent to all registrants. In addition, we have a Q&A part of this webinar, so we encourage you to be ready with your questions. You can enter them into the interface, as you can see here, at any time. So feel free to enter those. So before we get started, just a quick overview as to what we'll be covering today. My name's Art Gehring. I'm part of the ETQ marketing team, and I'm really excited to be joined by these experienced quality leaders, Paul Smith and Aaron Mullis with Owen Mumford. It's really should be a fantastic story and success story that they're going to share. So I'll provide a quick overview on ETQ, then we'll turn it over to the main event. Then we'll sort of have a quick discussion about some of the things they shared, and then we'll open it up to the audience for your questions. So, as I said, just before we dive into the topic at hand, I want to share a little bit about ETQ. So we're a leading provider of quality management system software solutions. We've been doing this for, excuse me, over 30 years. So we do this by empowering quality champions like Paul and Aaron to make quality management a catalyst for business agility and success. And we do that with an award-winning solution. You can see some of the awards that we've won here. In fact, those of you that are familiar with G2, which is the leading peer review site for software, we've been recognized a leader in the QMS category for 16 quarters in a row. And we get this recognition, and customers value our solution for a wide range of reasons. It's a flexible, scalable, cloud-native solution with over 40 applications that span the entire life cycle of quality management to meet our customers' needs in the moment and as they grow. That 30 years of experience is in understanding our customers' needs, and we're not just a software solution. We're a trusted advisor and partner, and we have this experience that spans a wide range of industries. So we're able to bring that cross-pollination, if you will, across industries to bear to help our customers succeed, to the over 1 million users that we have worldwide. We also recognize that quality is a journey, right? So we partner with our customers to deliver a superior customer experience, providing the tools, support, service they need wherever they are in their journey to ensure ongoing success and to achieve ROI. So in terms of the range of industries we serve, you can see quite a bit here, spanning from discrete manufacturing to many regulated industries like medical devices, food and bev, consumer goods, other life science categories. You can see there's global brands here. You can see there's large organizations and kind of emerging growth organizations. So we have a solution that fits the needs of large organizations with many facilities, locations, business users, and more complex needs. But we also have an out-of-the-box solution for first-time buyers, emerging companies, and the beauty there is that we can grow with you, right? So we see many organizations use this out of the box, and then as their needs change and emerge, they can configure the system to meet their needs. So that's we have that future-proof technology, and you'll see, for those of you joining us from UK and other parts of Europe, you'll see some global brands here: Subway, Caterpillar. But there's also organizations that are headquartered in EMEA or the UK. You'll see, in fact, Teleflex Medical is a good example of a medical device organization in the UK, but there's many others. And speaking of that, just to kind of drill down on since we are talking with Owen Mumford, who is a medical device manufacturer. This is a very strong category for us. We serve organizations of various sizes and to meet their needs and meet their regulations in that space. Also want to point out that we're happy to be part of the Hexagon family for over a year now. They saw in us an ability to extend the value of the quality solutions that they're providing to their customers today. And for us, it's an opportunity to share the value that we're providing to customers on a more global scale. So let's talk a little bit about life sciences more specifically. I think from Owen Mumford, you'll hear many parts of their story that appeal to an organization in any industry. The frustration with paper-based systems and the lack of business agility, but also, they are a medical device organization, and there are some key things that a medical device organization needs to focus on. So we want to just kind of touch on a couple of those real quick. So a key one is adhering to FDA regulations or global regulations. You want to be sure that you're submitting the right forms at the right time, collecting the right information, being fully prepared for audits. In fact, you'll hear Owen Mumford talk about that as a driver for their choice to automate. And you want to be able to do that with minimum effort and minimal risk of a fault. Furthermore, mitigating quality and compliance risk. You want to ensure compliance across the globe, not just the FDA, but with consumers and global regulations. And of course, you want to protect brand value. You want to avoid brand damage by identifying and addressing quality issues before they reach your customer. The brand impact on something reaching the public these days is significant, but also I think everyone recognizes that the costs associated with addressing an issue once it reaches the customer is far more significant. You want to be proactive and catch these things before they reach the customer. So let's talk about a little bit on how a proven quality management system can help with this. First of all, by standardizing or some organizations for harmonizing processes, documentation, you want to make sure that everyone is on the same page, using the same information for the same processes across geographies, business units, having the same doc control, and having your data standardized, right? So if your data is standardized, then you can use it to do analysis across the organization. And if you have an advanced analytic solution that a proven quality management system can provide, then you can really leverage all this data that's being collected to make data-driven decisions, to make more proactive decisions rather than reactive decisions. A proven QMS can help you maintain compliance with all the regulations across the globe, including UMDR, MIR, et cetera. And as we've all heard, and we continue to hear about supply chain challenges, and a proven system can really help you address some of those issues by working more collaboratively with your suppliers to correct and reduce corrective action closure time, to onboard new suppliers more quickly, to rate suppliers and choose the best one for the job. So these are some of the things that how we can help medical device organizations address some of the key issues they see today. So that's a quick intro. Now for the main event, I'm really excited to turn things over to Paul and Aaron to tell the Owen Mumford quality journey story. Thank you guys, fellas, so much for joining us today. We're really excited and anxious to hear your story.
It's nice to be here. So I think welcome to everyone to Owen Mumford. So we are a global leader in manufacture and design of medical devices. We have a split portfolio of products, and our focus is helping both patients but also medical professionals to make sure that people get the right treatment using state-of-the-art devices for a whole wealth of different health conditions. We are a relatively small family-owned business, but we have experience, and we work with what are 7 out of the 10 rated biggest pharmaceutical and diagnostic companies across the globe. So we ourselves are quite small, but we realise the impact the products we make and design have on a much wider global stage. So I'll cover a bit more about what we do here at Owen Mumford shortly, but just to give a brief introduction on myself, and then I'll let Aaron introduce himself. So I'm Paul Smith. I've been with Owen Mumford for just over 10 years. I am the Group Quality and Regulatory Affairs Director, so I have functional responsibility for the quality and regulatory aspects across the whole global network, and have been in this role for about 8 of the 10 years I've been here. I also sit on the executive management team, so I kind of have my role is split into very much a functional responsibility, but also a business leadership. I have over 25 years experience in the pharma and medical device industry. Validation was my first journey into the industry, but across those years I've covered many different aspects of quality, regulatory, product development, and I've spent a fair chunk of time even dealing with sterile products. So quite well-rounded, not a pure, true quality person by education or training, but I think that gives me a very broad and deep understanding into some of the challenges and manoeuvring in the industry. Aaron, I'll let you cover yourself.
Thank you very much. So my name's Aaron Mullis. I'm Quality Systems Project Lead. When I was brought in to head up the project for the global implementation of ETQ Reliance. I've got 13 years in the medical device industry, experience in the quality, regulatory, process improvement, and production roles. So most of which being Mumford. I've had a lot of outlook on our previous quality management system, so it puts me in a great spot to be able to look into the ETQ project, and that was what I was brought in for. So that's me.
So us as a business, we're relatively evenly split between 2 main divisions. So we have our medical device division, which is Owen Mumford, tends to be Owen Mumford to the end user supply chain. And then we have our pharmaceutical services division, which is much more partnering with some of the big pharmaceutical companies to deliver what mainly classed as combination products. So we have a relatively strong brand under the Owen Mumford name, lots of products with uses in diagnostics, so blood sampling, traditional capillary blood sampling, but we're now moving into more venous blood sampling products as well. We also have various different drug delivery accessories, sexual health care, including a HIV diagnostic kit, and neuropathy screening, particularly linked with diabetes. So diabetes was kind of our entry into the medical device field, so there'll be plenty of links to diabetes itself in the products we make, but also some of the other related effects that disease can have with patients. Our pharmaceutical services division tends to be products that are designed and manufactured by Owen Mumford but sold under the partner's brand to suit their needs. That can be from platform products that we work on to custom-made self-injection devices, And at one of our sites, we have a drug MHRA drug device combination product, so we can even do final assembly of product. Where we are globally and where we're based, so we're headquarters in the UK. So we have 2 different manufacturing sites in the UK, soon to be to add a 3rd site here in the UK. And then starting with Europe, we have sales offices and distribution in France and Germany. Then in the US, we have a packaging and distribution facility based out in Atlanta. And the newest manufacturing site was added to the network in about 2016, 2017, which is based in Malaysia, and really is a hub to give us an entry point and supply the Asia region from a local site. So across the capabilities we have as a business, we are very much end-to-end with the medical device industry. So that can start from R&D, human factors, right the way through prototyping, industrialization to manufacturing, and sales and marketing. So it really covers a whole breadth of the capabilities that you need, or anybody would need to bring a product from concept to manufacture at huge scale. As I touched on previously, a lot of our medical device foundation came from diabetes, but we also have a very strong innovation and R&D capability. So a lot of what we do builds on bringing in IP and looking at how we can protect the products we design, but we also have a long history of bringing in some medical firsts around some of the products we make. So we were the first, we designed and brought to market the first disposable lancing device, and also the automatic insulin pen, which there's some summary of some of the products we've designed and developed on the next couple of slides. So as the industry moves forward, human factors becomes much more of a key focus for us, which is where we're looking at developing and bringing through state-of-the-art products. We're also proud that we've come to win multiple different awards for our products. So within the UK, we've won 3 or 4 Queen's Awards over the years for different design or export to the world, and also the most recent award outside of that we got was a Red Dot Award for innovation in 2015, which is for one of our pen needle products. So I think moving on to the key bit of the presentation and our quality journey. So when I look at the quality journey and a good way of judging where we came from and where we are now, it's often best seen to see how third parties have seen us over the years. So these are audit results. So back in 2014, looking at the data that we have just for our UK facilities, that was a year we had 7 third-party audits, and it wasn't a particularly good year. We had 1 critical finding, 13 major findings, 35 minor findings, and when we start talking about the journey, there was some other activities happening in around 2014 that really triggered the journey and the need to improve. So if I now look back at 2022 and analyse the audits we had there across all of the sites, we've had more than double that number of audits from 2014, and the results are significantly better. So we have typically, we've gone a number of years with no critical findings, very low number of major findings, and a minor findings averaging less than 1 minor finding an audit. So from a third party view of our quality system and where we are, I think quite rightly we're proud on the journey we've been on, and not wanting to rest on our laurels and push even further ahead and even improve further to eliminate some more of those findings. So as I touched on, 2014 was a key year for us, and that was a year we had an FDA inspection in the US. So I was over on our Atlanta site, and while that wasn't a significantly challenging audit, the inspector at the time, over the course of the 3 or 4 days she was on site, asked it a number of times when was the last time the FDA were over in the UK, which I was struggling to give her a date that was any more recent than about 1999. So clearly there was an interest from an FDA inspector in the UK and our audit or inspection history. So when I came back from that inspection, I already knew that the FDA would be landing to do an inspection within the next few months. It actually happened probably a lot quicker than I anticipated. So within about 2 or 3 months of being back from that inspection, we had the notification and the dates for a March inspection of one of our sites. So back in October 2014, when I look at some interesting KPIs to track, our CAPA actions, we had close to 400 CAPA, over a quarter of them were overdue, and a substantial number greater than 90 days overdue, which in FDA inspection time was a significant high risk to the business, and something that clearly was needing a focus and a great level of control. So by creating new roles, increasing headcount to chase actions and really get to grips with those CAPA actions, started the journey, and by the end of March the data shows that we'd kind of dropped the number open significantly. There were 3 overdue at the end of March, but when the FDA were on site mid-March, everything was within its due period. So that significantly helped with that inspection, and that closed with no 483s, which was a considerable success from where we were starting when the inspection was announced. If I roll forward to how we closed 2022, again, the number of CAPA actions we've got is running much lower at 118, and we have nothing overdue. So we're much more in the drumbeat of every month we close with nothing overdue, and that has an effect of pushing us to much better levels. Across the time period from 2015 to now, there's also been a key improvement with one of our key customers. So this is a customer that we designed and we manufacture the majority of their product for, what is about several tens of billion-dollar franchise a year that they work on. So across the 2014 to 2022 timeline, we've gone from an incredibly average or slightly below average supplier to them, where we had a person in plant and lots of tricky conversations, to one of their top-rated award-winning suppliers. So we now have over 5 years where we have consistently delivered an excellent level of quality to them, and that reached 100% on time in full deliveries. So we have really transitioned from a troublesome supplier to one that they kind of know exactly what they're getting from month in, month out, which is excellent quality and everything on time in full. So for me, the focus and support needed to transition on that journey really was a top-down throughout the entire business focus, and for us to move at speed, really fixing some of the fundamental problems we were having with just lots of elements of the quality systems and people's attitudes and cultures. So that focused on just how it started and the CAPA actions. I think when we look at the benefits from the journey and what else we've gained from it, So back in 2015 was our FDA inspection in one UK site, and that had no 483s. We've now had 3 further inspections covering all the other 3 FDA registered manufacturing sites, and from 4 inspections, each one has closed with no 483s issued, which is something that we are incredibly proud and happy to have achieved. One of the effects that we had with reducing the number of CAPA actions open and overdue is we've reduced the number of non-conformances. So if I look at the UK data, back in 2016, we had 567 non-conformance reports raised. By 2021, that's nearly halved, and a big part of that is just down to the focus people have on closing their CAPA actions in a timely fashion, and if you correct things before they happen again, the number of non-conformances obviously drop as well. If where we have less CAPA and less non-conformances, that means the quality of the product going into the market is much higher, and we see that with a significant drop in complaints. So these are numbers of total complaints. So this even covers where people are struggling to use the device because they're not following instructions or anything else like that. So where we've reduced the number of non-conformances, the knock-on effect is our number of complaints has also come down. As I covered previously, our customer perception is much improved from going from below average to award-winning. And for me, the most important thing is being the person that heads up quality and regulatory across the whole business. I look around the business now and I can see that we've truly achieved unconscious compliance. So this is where people are focusing on compliance without even thinking about it. We have a true quality culture, and that's often proven because being in the EU, we're now being part of Europe and supplying the EU, we're now open to unannounced audits from notified bodies. When they happen, it's just a standard day in the office that we cope with because it's part of everything we do day to day. So having gone from a pretty poor picture to one of really good, excellent quality system that is quite often given praise during audits, the question is, why change it when it's not broken? And that the decision really to move to automation and move to electronic QMS from a paper-based one is really around how we continue to deliver the superb results we have done. And the simple fact is the paper-based quality system is not sustainable. So it's not sustainable in as much as it is resource hungry. So from a business need, we are paying people to just chase other people to close actions down and to kind of do admin work with paper, which as the business moves forward into new realms, we need to focus resource on other areas. Paper-based system from a CSR sustainability goal perspective is not great. The amount of paper we use and the amount of ink we use needs to dramatically reduce. So moving to an electronic system is an obvious change. And then coming through the COVID times and the lockdowns, having a paper-based QMS was a real challenge. So as the world evolves with working patterns and more people working from home and hybrid working, having an electronic system just clearly makes that a much more sustainable, easy to be compliant process. And then from a strategic point of view, as I'm looking to move quality and the business forward, creating I have a global team reporting to me, so really it's focusing on that one quality global reach. So make sure that all of the sites use a single set of quality metrics, report into a single system, and allow us to have the oversight of everything across the whole network, particularly at a time where we have new sites that are being looked at or being built and developed. So as we add new sites in there, there's a new challenge to bring into lots more into the group. So having a electronic system just becomes an absolute no-brainer to move to. So having reached the point of bringing in the electronic system, that's where I'm going to hand over to Aaron, because he's much more qualified to talk through the journey of getting where we are today with ETQ.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, so as I mentioned in my introduction, I was brought in to head up the project to implement the ETQ Reliance software into the business globally. And so we went with a phased approach. Obviously, the overall goal is that we will span the entire quality system with an electronic quality management system. But using a phased approach, we took a number of modules and got them validated internally. But what we've decided to do as part of the project is that we actually implement them on a phased approach. So we started with some of the sort of heavy hitting modules that everyone in the business almost needs to use. So we went with a document control module, and we've managed to get that rolled out across all sites globally. We started with the higher risk modules. So the next ones we're looking at is NCRs and Kappa. So when we're looking into those modules, we get into the integration with our current ERP system. What the ETQ software allows us to do is essentially take a two-part process and reduce that down to a one-part process without having to log on to multiple pieces of software. So buy-in from the top down. So the software was agreed prior to me coming into the role by Paul. Paul was an important part of making the decision, essentially, that we would use ETQ. But obviously then part of my role is making everybody aware in the business that the new software is coming, and what it's going to involve, how it's going to affect them, to make sure that it was clear for everyone in the organisation that you know, what we were doing, and not only what we were doing, but how it was going to affect them and how they can prepare for that. And with that, of course, comes a number of challenges. There's a lot of change resistant individuals and teams across the business. A lot of them, like myself, have used a paper-based system for a long time. But with that comes a lot of familiarity, and obviously we're coming in and telling them that they're going to have to completely change what they do on a day-to-day basis. So obviously trying to win those people over is part of the challenge of my position. But what we've actually found is that we have managed to get the majority of people on board with the implementation, and there's actually a really good feeling around the business now for ETQ Reliance. People are really engaging with it, so which is great. Another one of the challenges we've got is the data migration, and migration of the data is hugely dependent on the information that you've got that's ready to go into the software itself. So what we did find was that we wanted to make sure that we cleansed the information and all the data was as good as we possibly could, as good as we could possibly get it before we implemented it into the system, to give ourselves the best chance of having a bulletproof system once it goes live. So obviously it's not been an easy task, but the results we're getting from that already are really good. So moving on to what the future looks like with ETQ for us, it's only the start of our digital transformation. So we've got other areas of the business which are going to be using our services. We've got like Paul said earlier, with the one quality, it's important that we have as many areas of the business covered under this piece of software. And beyond this piece of software, we also have other projects which are buying into the whole electronic and digital transformation, including e-signatures for documents and electronic batch files and all of those types of things. So we're only at the start of our journey, really, with the electronic and automation and digital transformation. But so far, we're really happy with the way it's going.
Thanks, Aaron. So I think that gives an indicator, kind of a very high level overview of Owen Mumford, what we do, where we've come from, and just kind of how key ETQ Reliance is becoming to our day-to-day activity, but also the future and how we're aiming to move forward and really build a strategic direction where ETQ Reliance becomes a fundamental part of our business processes.
Well, that was fantastic. Thank you, Paul and Aaron. I think I'll be back on video in a second, but really appreciate that. Really great story. And obviously, when you give out your phone number, you really mean it. And I love the term, unconscious compliance. That's a new one that I really like. So we're sort of in the discussion portion of today's event, and had a couple questions. I think one thing that I'd like to drill into a little bit further is how you won management support. We hear very often that organizations and particularly the quality department really sees the value of an automated solution, but senior management doesn't always see it that way. They see it as a cost rather than opportunity for an ROI and for the business. So I wonder if you could talk a little bit more about how you won their support and also how that continues to be. So Aaron mentioned how management continues to provide support in kind of winning over the team to to use an automated solution. So if you could share a little bit on both those fronts.
Sure. I think there's probably one more for me than you, Aaron.
Yeah.
So I think as much as it felt daunting when the FDA announced they were coming over to inspect the UK, that really was the trigger for senior management to kind of almost wake up and realize where we were at the time, and just how much effort we needed to invest to achieve what was kind of almost thought as an impossible outcome of kind of the FDA coming, inspecting us and leaving with no 483s. I remember coming out of that FDA inspection closing meeting, and both of our shareholders had been in that meeting. Our chairman was just a smile beaming because he'd never heard of a company not having a 483 issued before. So as soon as you realize you've got that level of pride at the very top, it was then down to me just to make sure that I am constantly beating the drum of how we're going to meet those sorts of demands moving forward. At that time, that transition to me needing extra resource to make sure we delivered those standards. And then as time goes by and as businesses evolve and resource headcount overheads becoming more focused, it becomes a very easy equation to show how investing in a system and doing things automated, there isn't a return on investment in as much as a new product going onto the market is, but there's a return on investment in that we will achieve the same or better level of compliance with a less demand on people doing things that add no value to the system. So we may not see a reduction in the amount of resource we have, but they may be move to roles where we are adding value or doing much more strategic projects that will deliver a return on investment, and the day-to-day running of the quality system is done in the system. So the FDA was definitely a help. The FDA coming back 12 months after the first inspection to do the other site in the UK, and us having no 483s there was also a help. And I think you commented on the unconscious compliance bit. That's something that I've been fortunate. My predecessor had seeded that journey in our managing director's head of how that journey looked. So I was just tapping in on that and kind of painting the picture so that he could see how the business could be relaxed every time we have an audit or every time we have an unannounced audit, of people are just doing their job and we're getting excellent results. So I guess for me, the key bit there to win the engagement is to have a result or some facts and figures that senior management can relate to and kind of really can fall behind and rally to.
Thanks, Paul. I have a question about the ERP integration. You're Epicor users, and I know that was a foundational reason for selecting ETQ is our integration with Epicor ERP. We can integrate with any ERP system, but in particular with Epicor. Can you gentlemen talk as to why that you saw that as important and what the benefits of that are?
So for me, you know, the importance of that, as I mentioned in the slide that I covered, is that what our current process requires is that a paper form for a non-conformance is raised, and then you have to log on to Epicor and you know put product on hold, and there's a whole like separate work stream for the actual the product control part of that. One of the key benefits for us is that because we log on to ETQ Reliance to raise our NCRs, as part of the integration piece, that will allow us to not have to do two separate work streams. So essentially, it's going to minimise the work involved and make it a lot tidier and a lot easier for the compliance team to be able to do that. So that was one of the key benefits we saw when we were mapping out the process, how it was going to look.
And I think just touching on that as well, from Aaron said, because it was a two-step process, occasionally one step, so the NCR may be closed, but the Epicor transaction may not happen at the same time. When we look at it from the highest level and an accounts perspective and a stock movement perspective, really from an automated system, what we want to make sure is when an NCR is closed and the product disposition is released to stock or released to ship, that happens instantly, so that we can start making sure that we don't hold anything up, we don't stop product getting reaching customers, but also we have a good reflection of what product we have around us in our ERP system to make decisions. I think you touched on that any ERP system can be integrated, but the other really good advantage that we saw with coming with ETQ Reliance is we're not having to really handle a third party to do the integration or to manage anything in between. Everything's done via the project team, so it became a challenge, I think, but a smoother than it would have been if we'd gone with a different integration solution.
Thank you both for that. Another question around just sort of your lessons learned. You've been at this for a bit, and you've had the opportunity for hindsight. I'm wondering if you could share with our listeners any best practices and lessons learned on your journey that you would recommend.
So I think from the top level, I think the number one lesson I've learned coming out of this is we absolutely made the right decision with going with ETQ Reliance as a solution. I think one of the things that's been really reassuring is kind of over the time we've been implementing it every time, and it happens quite often. Overnight, I'll think of something that maybe we've missed. I'll come in the next day, send Aaron a question as to, oh, have we thought about this? Does ETQ Reliance do this for us? And very quickly, the answer is sort of like, yes, it does it in X, Y, Z. So it really is a well-rounded system, and I think it's certainly the interface and the way people interact with it has made it a much easier sell to get their buy-in to use it. I think my lesson, there's other than that, probably two things is I think I may have been over ambitious in how we were going to roll it out, so many different modules in parallel across different sites. So that's where we've rephased things, or we've kind of moved dates around to suit other sites. And the other lesson learned is something that Aaron touched on in his presentation, is kind of just the amount of time and energy you need to focus on getting the data ready to migrate. So I think ETQ Reliance gives a very good template to migrate data in, but if you don't have the data in a good place before you migrate it in, you will just be migrating in bad data. So there was probably a big chunk of work we could have done way up front before even deciding what solution we were going to use for an electronic quality management system, and start sorting the data out very early.
Yeah, I'd just like to agree with what your last point there. I think one of the biggest challenges we sort of faced was the data that we had. Although it was suitable, it wasn't in the best possible state that we could have had it in to migrate over. And obviously, if we're going into a new system entirely and we want people to have a good view of it based on the system working brilliantly, we don't want to put anything in there that's below par. So we decided to take the time and make sure that we had that information ready to migrate over, and in the best possible format we could before it went in. But obviously, like Paul said, we could have planned possibly to have done that a little earlier, but hindsight, we wouldn't have known what information we could put into the system before we got to that point. So yeah.
Okay, well, this has been great. I think we're seeing some questions come in from the audience, so I think it's a good time to move over to the Q&A. While we're doing that, I'm just putting up a slide here which shares some additional resources that are available on this topic and related topics around quality management. So the first question is around the reasons you selected ETQ. I think some of those have come up in your discussions, but Paul, if you could just kind of articulate, the question is, what are the top 2 or 3 reasons you selected?
So for me, one of the biggest is that integration pace. So we were already an Epicor user, so it was looking at what systems would integrate where we wouldn't have to have a third party, and we wouldn't be caught in that discussion piece where if things weren't working, that the ERP provider would be saying no, it's something ETQ is doing, and vice versa. So that was one of the key ones. Another one is kind of when we looked at ETQ Reliance and had various different demonstrations. For me, the look, the feel, the workflow approach, how every module looked very similar, gave me that reassurance and kind of gave me the feel that it would be easy to implement across a global network, but also get people. So if you're used to handling if you look at used to working within the document management module most of the time, but you need to raise a plan deviation, for example. When you open the plan deviation module, it has a familiar feel to it. And then when we dug into the next layer down, without having to customize the solution, we were able to kind of add notes and things into the module, so that now the plan deviation module we have live, if anybody goes into that and they're used to our paper-based system, there's the same prompts as we had on the paper forms, there's the same flow. So it just became a very flexible system, and it kind of shone out above some of the others we looked at.
Thank you. Here's another question. I think this one might be for Aaron. Some of this you've answered already, but just to make sure we complete the answer for the asker. With integration taking longer, what integration points with the ERP system did you utilize? What ERP system do you use? We know that to be Epicor. Is the data one-way or two-way with the system?
Okay, yeah, so what we've got for our integration is we've got the integration mainly with the CAPA and non-conformance module. What that allows us to do is when a CAPA or a non-conformance implicates product, we're able to put that on hold within our ERP system, which, as you said before, is Epicor. And it says at the end, is the data one or two way with the system? It's both. It says it's two ways. So we have two-way integration with the ERP and CAPA and non-conformance modules.
So for me, the two-way again was absolutely key. So that and the way I positioned it is so that a non-conformance can arise either coming out of quality where we've done some testing and we've identified a product needs to be put on an NCR, or it could be as simple as somebody in the warehouse has noticed something's wrong with the product. So whichever system they have access to, that I want them to input it, and then that creates the file and the flag in the other system that we pick up on that way. So it was certainly two-way integration was a critical need.
Thanks. Here's another related question. How did you integrate ETQ with PLM, ERP we talked about, and or MES? And then a second add-on to that for DHF, DMR, and DHR files, as well as NCMR, a lot of acronyms here, and complaints.
But I think at the moment the integration is only with the ERP system.
It is, yes.
And certainly some of those points are on our journey. So DHF, DMR, DHR are all requests that we have from the business and projects that we'll be picking up to do as a phased approach once we've replaced everything in the quality management system, and we're then looking at using the system from a wider perspective. So we will be looking to transform everything digitally and move to bringing everything into ETQ over time. Non-conformances will be kind of in our current phase. Once we finished non-conformance and added the training aspects into that, we'll then move into what is our phase 2, which cover complaint management and change control. Once we finish that phase, that means everything in our paper-based quality system is then replicated in ETQ, and that's when we'll go into the wider DHF, DMR, DHR files to bring everything into ETQ, and there's a whole host of other things afterwards.
Thank you both for that. Here's another question about validation. How long does the validation of the systems after an update take for you?
So we've been a relatively new customer. We haven't actually experienced that as yet, so we wouldn't be really in a position to answer.
But certainly everything we've seen, the initial validation, and the information and documentation that flows from the ETQ guys. I think I don't anticipate that to be anything that's going to take us any significant amount of time.
Okay, thank you. And here's probably one last question before we wrap up. An interesting one. Someone is realizing that I have a very odd British accent, and I apologize for not being on camera. We're having a technical glitch. I'm not trying to hide here. But the question is around working with, as an organization headquartered in the UK. How has it been working with an American-based company?
So I guess
I was going to say, for me, very simple. We are a global organization, so we have teams in the US, we have teams in Malaysia. So quite often for me, the working day becomes blurred at both ends depending what's happening around the world. So again, not a problem for working the different time zone. And Aaron, you've got some advantages on the technical aspects.
Yeah, so from a technical perspective, if we need some, there's a number of things that can happen that we need maybe a shutdown or a restart of the system, and what that means is that our main user group can be off-site when those are done. So it actually gives us a bit of an advantage in a way, being in the UK, because we can schedule any maintenance that needs to be done for outside of the working hours of the UK staff, which also most of the time ends up being out of the Malaysian site. So our smallest amount of users are in the US group, so that it gives us less disruption. And also what it does is if we ever request any information from ETQ and it's later on in our day, we tend to find that we have all of the information we requested by the time we return to the office the next day. So it allows for the work to continue essentially whilst we're not in the office, because our working hours are finished. So for me, it actually has been more of an advantage rather than a disadvantage.
Yeah. I think we work it into our plans and we work it to our advantage. I think just touching on something you said, Aaron, as well, is we've also found that at different times we've needed to utilize on the 24/7 support that kind of was promoted as part of us bringing in the ETQ package, and the times we've needed to reach out because we needed support outside of the US working day, we've always received it very quickly. So it's almost like there is no time difference, and everybody's working on the same time zone just because of the way we're able to plan things.
Thank you both very much for that answer. So we've got 2 minutes left. We did have one more question come in, so maybe we can answer this one quickly. Maybe there's a short answer. How many IT and other staff are dedicated to ETQ support?
So we have very little IT support dedicated to it. We have a little bit of, so obviously a lot of because it's an IT system, a lot of the support requests or new users or passwords, etc., are routed through our IT system. We've consulted with them from the outset, but they have just absorbed the support as part of their day job, so there is no dedicated support needed. I think other staff, so Aaron, it's you and a team of 2 others on the project to implement, and I foresee that kind of going down to 2 dedicated people when we kind of reach a status quo on the system in operations versus the amount of projects we're rolling out.
So to add to that, obviously whilst we're going through the rollout of additional modules, then obviously that there's a lot of the sort of integration work and all of the implementation work that's also on top of that. But I think, like Paul said, once we're once we're at a point where we're fully functional, where in all the areas that we want to, I think it will be just the 2 ETQ people that are dedicated to the Reliance support.
Thank you both for that answer, and that brings us up to the top of the hour. Fantastic. Really appreciate both of you for taking so much time to tell your story and answer these questions. Really appreciate it. Want to thank the audience for joining us today, and wish you wherever you are a great evening or a great rest of the day. Thank you all very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.